My name is William Isom. I was born in 1976, and I have two brothers and two sisters. I'm the youngest. My parents are William Isom Sr. and Patricia Isom. I was actually born in Hamilton County. I guess I was born in Morristown Hamilton Hospital, but I grew up out in Hamilton County, out near Lowland. And so I grew up out in the country, ripping and running with the neighbor kids. And I spent a lot of time out in the woods and in the creeks and playing around out in the woods and trying to occupy myself that way as a young person. I attended Morristown Hamilton East. After I got my GED, I went to Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro and went for mass communications, radio, television, and photography. And it was my first time really living outside of Hamilton County. And it was really interesting because I was around, a lot of kids from Memphis and Jackson, and really started to understand that where I'm from is just a little bit different than the rest of the state, and that there are differences from Memphis to Nashville to East Tennessee. And so it really opened my eyes not only to the broader world, but to our position as East Tennesseans in the rest of the country. So it was eye-opening for me, but I really enjoyed my college years. Still have lifelong friends. I'm the director of Black in Appalachia, Research, Education, and Support. And it's a nonprofit. I've been doing this work for 11 years. This is the 11th year I've been doing this work. And it came out of a project with East Tennessee Public Television in Knoxville. And so my day-to-day work, I'm really lucky and blessed that I spend all day, every day just researching and documenting Black history in the Mountain South. And so mostly in East Tennessee, but also as far as Pittsburgh down to Birmingham. Spend a lot of time in Western North Carolina. So my day-to-day work looks a lot like census data work, doing oral histories, trying to find published materials about Black life in the region, traveling all over the region and talking to elders and I call it making friends, traveling around and making friends with folks and just learning. So I get to spend my day, every day, learning and trying to figure out how I can leverage resources to support Black communities in the region. I got into this work I've always been interested in family history and research, just as a hobby, just on my own. And so I kind of had that base foundation of my own family, researching my own family, but to pay the bills, I got a job at East Tennessee Public Television. And that's really where I learned how to do documentary production style work and produce films that kind of fit in the PBS pocket. And so my boss, Chris Smith, really gave me enough space to kind of hone and develop as a younger person the skills necessary to be able to tell stories to the broader world. And so I credit East Tennessee PBS for really giving me that space to be able to do that. But then a lot of it is just figuring it out, like seeing the need and figuring out how do we fill this need in the narrative. My favorite color is green, I guess. I like green. My favorite sports teams, I really like the Tennessee Titans, but they break my heart. They're breaking my heart. So at this moment, I'm rooting for Detroit Lions and Baltimore Ravens. But Tennessee Vols all the way. And and I like any number of college basketball teams once the Final Four gets started in the Sweet 16. Favorite sports, men, has to be football. I love football, but also I like baseball as well. My favorite women's sport has to be women's, like Lady Vols basketball. I don't think there's any other sport but Lady Vols. I really like visiting Washington, D.C. I like to visit Baltimore. I like Cincinnati as well. I like those kind of crusty cities. I would love to be able to go travel and see some of Asia, Southeast Asia. My dad's a Vietnam vet. I would love to be able to take him to go visit Vietnam some point. I think anywhere in Southeast Asia would be really amazing to see. Yeah, Morristown is a really interesting place, especially once you travel and go other places. You start to realize how unique this place really is. You know, I'm kind of a historian, so I like to look at things in a long arc. You know, Morristown's always been like this hub for people from the surrounding counties to come for medical care, education. You know, people would come over from Thornhill to go to Morristown College High School to go to school. And so it's always acted as like an educational and economic hub of East Tennessee. And even Eastern Kentucky, people in the coal fields would come down to Morristown to go shopping. And so it's also a hub now for Latino folks, people coming up from Guatemala and Mexico, and people from the Pacific Islands. And so I think when I think about Morristown, I think about like a cultural hub. My favorite thing about Morristown is the food. I like to come here and eat, and Morristown has some really good restaurants, and yeah, and so I like to come here and spend my evening having dinner. Most unfavorable thing about Morristown would have to be the spread. I think that it's not a very walkable city. People have to always drive everywhere, and I think I think we could do better about that. We could cultivate less of a car culture and more of a pedestrian culture. I think that's one of my least favorite things about Morristown. Yeah, I hope Morristown in the future continues to embrace what it is. You know, its diversity and what its strengths are. I hope that Morristown. I hope for Morristown to see more cultivation of the arts and music, and cultivating our young people to learn to play music and create art. I think that's, when I look across the landscape of Morristown, like that's what's missing. Like we need a little bit more funky art and music going on. No, I really love East Tennessee, and it's home. I've traveled all over the world, and I have yet to been like, oh, this is better than home. Like, and just, whenever I travel anywhere else, I can't think anything else but like how much I'd rather be here. I think most poor and working class folks are pretty unified in their situation. I think that I would like to just like reiterate. I think that the arts are the space where people can unify at and find common ground. I think we've traditionally across history in this area, food and music have been the things that have brought people together, and that's the commonality between us all. So I think if we can cultivate arts and music with our young people, I think another generation down the line will be in much better shape.